Hi, this is Mark Leland, and I'm proud to represent Autism Awareness. For the past 5 years, I've went all over the country singing and promoting a song called Missing Pieces that's about autism. And I've seen through my friends and family children that have been affected by autism, and it's heartbreaking. But I know there's a lot of people out there with really big hearts that can make a difference and be the missing piece. So I encourage you to do whatever you can for this world called autism.
Just because you think I am not looking, I see what you see. Just because I have a blank expression on my face, I still feel what you feel. Just because you think I am not listening, I hear what you hear. Just because I do not shout out my thoughts, I think just like you think. I have autism. See me for all of my abilities. Do not see me for all of my disabilities.
My heart told me things didn't seem right. I just felt it. I wasn't sure I could put my finger on it, but I felt it. When I held him, I felt it. He felt different to me.
About 12 months old, 13 months old, he really stopped, almost stopped communicating at all.
He wasn't responding that much, and he wouldn't look at us. And also he had some odd behaviors, like some twitching. Like he would be sitting as a little baby, and he would start doing like jerky movements. And that worried me. I said that to the doctor, but they ignored me.
Seeing Logan in a different environment, being observed by somebody, we were all in a small little room, and just watching him, what he was doing, it was like, there really might be something wrong. And she said, initially at that very first meeting, she said there might be red flags for autism.
It was a very surreal experience to walk out of the doctor's office to have confirmed something that you were afraid to have confirmed. And I remember standing in the parking lot and just not knowing what to do next, because you walk out with a diagnosis, but then there's not a list of what to do and what to do first, or who to call.
I don't think I really heard what the doctor said. I think he was gently trying to ease into diagnosis label, but I think all in all I just blocked it out. I didn't want to hear it.
There are 1.5 million people with autism in the United States alone. Autism diminishes a person's ability to connect with others socially. They cannot communicate with others, nor engage in a range of activities or behaviors that are in a manner that is typical of the child's age.
Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and really we talk about autism spectrum disorders, which refers to 3 neurodevelopmental disorders, which are autism, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified, or people call it PDD, NOS, and Asperger's syndrome. And together those 3 make up the autism spectrum.
The degree to which these areas of development are affected varies significantly among children with autism. For example, some children with autism have no verbal language abilities, while others have language capabilities within the normal range. This variation in the severity of symptoms is often referred to as the autism spectrum.
There are things like lack of social smiling. Young babies will, frequently smile up at their parents' face. Children with autism tend to have a rather flat look on their face, so it's very neutral, and they're not doing a lot of smiling. We see limited eye contact in the infants. We see, later on, we start to see a lack of babbling, lack of use of gestures, so these children aren't clapping, waving, pointing. So there are a lot of things that come on very early on, even before language development starts to appear.
The history of autism, or symptoms of autism, have been recorded long before autism was named. The word autism, which has been in use for about 100 years, comes from the Greek word authos, meaning self. The term describes conditions in which a person is removed from social interaction, hence an isolated self. In 1911, Eugene Buehler, a Swiss psychiatrist, first coined the term autism. However, that term applied to adult schizophrenia. In 1943, Dr. Leo Kanner of Johns Hopkins University described autism for the first time. He based his discovery from 11 children he observed between 1938 and 1943. What he studied were children who had withdrawal from human contact as early as age 1. During the 1940s through the 60s, the medical community felt that children who had autism were schizophrenic. These lacks of understanding of the disorder led many parents to believe that they were at fault. Soon people began to understand autism and more precisely identify autism symptoms and treatments. Today, there are many different beliefs as to its cause, but it is generally agreed that it is caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors.
We have some indications of some things that contribute to autism, and those would include, we know there's a genetic link. There's some indication that possibly exposure to pesticides or exposure to certain things in the uterus may then contribute to a child going on to be diagnosed with autism. Advanced maternal age and advanced paternal age both are factors. Some evidence from a study in California, there were some migrant farm workers and the mothers were exposed to a lot of pesticides and they had a higher rate of children with autism than others in the community. So we know there's an environmental link, we know there's a genetic trigger, but we haven't exactly figured it out.
Autism affects 4 boys to every 1 girl diagnosed with the disorder. Recent studies further suggest that the rates of autism are rising fast, and now 1 out of every 91 children are being diagnosed. A number far greater than in the 1980s, where 1 out of 10,000 children were being diagnosed with autism. In such a short time, we have no actual answers as to why this has greatly changed. Reasoning behind this is under considerable debate, but medical professionals feel differently for many reasons.
One is that we are getting better at diagnosing it. So children that, those very mild children weren't getting diagnosed before, those quirky kids. I think also some children before that had a diagnosis of, say, mental retardation are now getting more properly diagnosed as having autism. I think also that there is an environmental component, and we don't really know what that is. Maybe something related to the pesticides that are in our environment now, but that's contributing to the increase as well. So there's certainly a number of factors.
The investigation in this area will continue to be a great debate to both the autism and scientific communities. Your child was just recently diagnosed with autism, and you feel shocked, overwhelmed, maybe in denial. For most parents, the diagnosis is an emotionally challenging and life-changing event. It is understandable and completely natural to feel this way. But the most important step many parents do not take is the step to keep moving on. You need to know that through informed action and the use of appropriate treatments and interventions, you can enhance the quality of life for your child. With the research that is being conducted in the field of autism, doors have opened from which parents and professionals can choose that can help the child. It cannot be predicted how much progress your child will make, but with early intervention, the chances are greatly increased. The aftermath of your child's diagnosis can be a very rough and trying time, not only for you, but also for siblings, extended family members, and friends of the family. Confusion, anger, hopes, or despair can be some of the many emotions that can and will be experienced. Many parents have sought professional counseling or parent support groups to help cope during this period of adjustment. Support can be found from autism organizations at the local, state, and national levels. At the local level is where you will find the most direct support, whereas at the state and national levels, you will find the more comprehensive and general autism information. From this point on, you will become the primary advocate for your child, so it will be important for you to evaluate your child's needs with the research supporting various interventions for autism. You will have to put a large amount of time and effort into becoming a knowledgeable consumer of information as you learn how to evaluate the different claims of treatment. General information on autism can be full of false hope and unreliable information. Different methods of treatment can have conflicting opinions. You will have to gather information from a variety of sources, including the internet, mass media, professional medical journals, reports from conferences, workshops, educational providers, as well as networking with other parents, educational or other medical professionals. By networking, one of the main benefits will be to help you best identify sources of information that have been useful to others. One source of information that has been extremely helpful for many families has been the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, or CARD. CARD is a free community-based project based out of Florida that provides information and consultation to individuals diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders and related disabilities. They also offer instruction and coaching to families and professionals through a training and assistance model.
One of the things that makes CARD a great place for families is that we have the ability to give you that starting point. If you are newly diagnosed, or if you are going through a transition where you're moving to Florida, or if you're going from one level of school to another and things are changing, you know, the asset to CARD is that we can do a lot of your homework and legwork for you in that sense. That CARD could be that resource, can provide you that information, could get you started with knowing who to talk to, where to go, you know, who to connect with for the kinds of resources that you're looking for.
Dr. Karen Berkman, an advocate for families who have children with autism, she has journeyed the same paths as many and knows the feeling of walking in the dark. She wants parents to be assured that there is hope and that all is not lost.
Every day, your child is going to give you something that they didn't give you the day before. And if you pay really close attention, you'll see those little tiny steps that tell you that your child is making progress. And I think video is a great way to really capture that. You know, I certainly took video of my son from the moment, you know, he came into this world and on up. And things that I don't catch on a day-to-day basis, I can see in a video and say, oh my goodness, I didn't notice that he was doing that now. And I think the same thing is true with the kids that we serve here. It's really important not to miss the moments in life and get so caught up in things that are negative that you forget to notice the things that are positive.
Look into your state resources for programs such as CARD. Other types of government-funded programs can be found in most counties nationwide. Some of the programs that can be offered are for after-school care. These programs are designed to help build skills that are needed to further the progress of a child living with autism.
I hope that the parents feel comfortable leaving their children in this fun environment where they can learn to play games and socialize with other children and have the same opportunities that regular children have in other recreational programs.
By being part of these programs, it helps the child interact with others and build friendships. Having them socializing, communicating, and interacting with others will prove to be very beneficial and self-rewarding to them. Look into your local county government for after-school programs in your area. We can interpret the mind of a child with autism differently than how that child's mind really is. Their actions, their thoughts, their words can seem to be louder than what they are. Imagine you were a child with autism and you wish that you could get your message through to someone. How could you do it? In some instances, it's hard to communicate to others. It's even harder to get your point across. There are easy methods to come up with that can help each time you encounter your child or someone with autism. Remember, they are a child with autism. They are not autistic. It is sometimes easy to forget that autism is one aspect of their total character. It does not define them as a person. Their sensory perceptions are chaotic. The senses that we mostly take for granted, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, can be very excruciating. The child often feels that the environment they live in can seem unwelcoming. They may appear reserved or aggressive to others, but they really are just trying to defend themselves. Most children with autism have a limited vocabulary. It's hard for them to tell you what they need when they don't know the words to describe their feelings. Watch carefully for their body language. Any withdrawal, or anxiety, or other signs that show something is wrong. Since language can sometimes be difficult, show them rather than tell them. Be prepared to show them many times, because a child with autism learns by repetition. There is no single treatment practice for a child with autism. Many parents will take a single approach, whereas many other parents will take multiple approaches to their child's therapy. Throughout your child's experiences with therapy, you may encounter many forms ranging from highly structured behavioral programs, such as the science of applied behavior analysis, or ABA, to alternative therapies like homeopathic and hyperbaric, to even dietary treatments like chelation therapy, which is the removal of metals from the body due to heavy metal intoxication. For the most common forms of heavy metal intoxication are those involving lead, arsenic, or mercury. Many parents and medical professionals believe that the heavy metal intoxication is due to children today being over-vaccinated. They feel that this led their child to having symptoms of autism. Another type of therapy that has been making its presence known in the autism community is functional neurology, or hemispheric integration therapy. This therapy uses the sensory motor integration hemispheric approach that targets the different sides of the brain. Based upon current neurological and brain research, hemispheric integration will strengthen the weakened pathways and circuits. These are examples of early intervention and therapies for autism that parents have taken. It will be up to you to make the right choice for your child. The Chittum's son, Mac, had hit every milestone until he was about a year old.
He developed perfectly fine until he was about 11 months old, and then I started noticing that he had stopped saying certain words or babbling. Like he used to say mama, nene, baba, dada, and he stopped saying mama first.
Soon after, the Chittums started to notice that their son Mac was not responding to their calls at all. With Mac having a history of ear infections, they figured at first he was suffering from some sort of hearing problem, but their fears grew worse. Mac had completely stopped talking and would commence to 6 to 8 hours of tantruming throughout the day. Introduced to a behavioral specialist, the Chittums would hopefully have their concerns put to rest. Soon after their initial meeting, it was suggested that they seek a more thorough evaluation. A behavioral pediatrician quickly evaluated Mac, and soon after, Mac's parents were invited back to discuss their son's future.
I knew something was wrong, but I think my husband was still hanging on to the fact nothing was, and she said, if you don't do something right away, your son could be severely autistic by the time he's 3. And just meaning that he was regressing and going down this path, and if we didn't, she suggested we get behavior therapy, ABA, and start early intervention.
Applied behavior analysis, or ABA, is the science of applying experimentally derived principles of behaviorism to modify behavior. It also identifies behaviors that should be replaced and behaviors that need to be reinforced. ABA-based interventions are used to treat individuals with a wide variety of behaviors and diagnosis, notably autism spectrum disorders.
Most children with autism have skill deficits, so a lot of times, they lack in the areas of communication, self-help skills, social skills, and whatnot. So related to the skill deficits, what we do is we work with the child one-on-one to teach those deficits. So we will go out to the home, go out to the community, and we also do therapy here in the clinic in order to teach those skills in a one-to-one setting. But in addition to that, a lot of our kids also exhibit problem behavior, primarily due to the lack of appropriate communication. So what we do is we develop recommendations and we observe the behavior, we take data on the behavior, and we slowly implement different interventions in order to reduce the likelihood of that problem behavior.
ABA includes the use of direct observation, measurement, and functional analysis of the relations between environment and behavior. ABA methods are used to support children with autism in some of the following ways: increasing behaviors that will reinforce procedures like social interactions and teaching new skills that will enhance life, communication, and social activities. Maintaining behaviors to teach self-control for job-related social skills, or reducing interfering behaviors like self-injury.
So it's all data driven. So if what we're doing isn't necessarily working to teach the child the skill we're looking for or to reduce the problem behavior that the child is exhibiting, then we change up the intervention. So it certainly is effective for children with autism.
Recent clinical reports from the American Academy of Pediatrics concluded that the benefit of ABA-based interventions in autism spectrum disorders for children who receive early intensive behavioral treatment have been shown to make substantial, sustained gains in IQ, language, academic performance, and adaptive behavior, as well as some measures of social behavior. The Chittims have been using applied behavioral analysis for almost the entire life of Mac's diagnosis. He has certainly made progress and achieved many personal gains in his development.
He's doing really, really well. Obviously, he's doing very well as far as communication. So, he's able to ask for things. He's able to ask when and who and how. And so he can ask questions. He can answer questions. He can talk about things. We just had a school meeting this week, and they're saying his social skills are really great. He's making friends at school. He's doing really well with playing with friends. So right now we're primarily just targeting a lot of the academic skills, writing and reading and math and things of that sort. But he's come such a long way. I mean, from a child who lived in his own world and didn't engage with other people to a child who, if you're in the same room, he has to have your attention. So he doesn't necessarily like to play by himself. He always wants to talk to you, to talk about what his friends are doing, to talk about what his brother's doing, what his cat's doing. I mean, he's just a very social and engaging little boy.
Mac's parents feel that they are extremely fortunate for their son's success due to the early intervention and time he has experienced with applied behavioral analysis. Kelly Jackson adopted her daughter Holly from an orphanage in China at the age of 18 months old. She had noticed that Holly was not achieving her milestones and was showing symptoms from the autism spectrum. Kelly was informed that Holly's brain was underdeveloped. While looking into the different types of therapy for Holly, she came across a seminar about hemispheric integration therapy.
When Dr. Monnier was going through his seminar, he talked about a subset of children adopted from international orphanages who did not get the ability when they were in those orphanages to be held, to have their mother look at them, smile at them, for it to register, oh, this is a smile, this makes me feel good. Those types of things did not happen for these kids. And it just set up for years later, their brain just was not developing at the same rate because they did not get that input in those first weeks, months of life.
Hemispheric integration therapy is the science of how the brain codes experience. It incorporates a multimodal approach to hemispheric imbalances associated with learning disabilities. In order for a child to have a complete view of the world, both the right and left halves, or hemispheres of the brain, must be communicating efficiently.
So if we look at your brain and you have to have a threshold of activity, you have to be above that threshold to have optimum or the best function of human expression. If you're down here because you don't have enough firing, then you're going to have like what they used to call like a brownout. You have a power out or not enough power to drive the higher functions, whether you speak or speaking or doing math or doing calculus, doing music. Those are your higher functions. So you can exist, but you exist at a lower functioning level.
Most learning and attention challenges involve one half of the brain being out of balance with the other half. This is due to an underactivation of one hemisphere as compared to the other. The result is having both halves of the brain out of sync or not communicating properly.
In general, we tend to see that children on the spectrum have more right-sided deficiencies. And if you have that deficiency, then that side or whatever that side's supposed to do doesn't work well. And if that side's not working well, the other side will become a little more dominant.
The majority of developmental and learning disabilities are the result of a problem with the development of a specific area of the brain that results in a child having difficulty processing information. After meeting with Dr. Nelson Monnier about his seminar, Kelly scheduled an appointment to bring in Holly for an evaluation.
We were there the next week. He spent 2.5 hours with my daughter. She got through the entire examination, and he said, I can help her. I can pinpoint exactly what area of her brain needs to be stimulated, needs to be rewired, needs to be developed, and I can help her. So she started with him the next week, and what he found were things that were so interesting no one else, no other doctor, no other specialist ever even checked on.
A right brain deficit tends to result in specific disorders, autism spectrum disorders being among them. Left brain deficits also result in a wide variety of disorders. Those in particular are learning disabilities and speech and language problems, symptoms of autism spectrum disorders. MRIs and other imaging tests are usually normal and will show no brain damage. Through hemispheric integration therapy, optimal brain function is achieved by allowing the two halves of the brain to communicate and work together.
If you picture two computers, an older one and a newer one, your brain is going to gravitate toward the newer one, or if they're trying to communicate with each other, perhaps they can't, so you're just working with half a brain or with half that, with the optimum computer. So that's kind of what's going on here. What the hemispheric integration of the functional neurology does is we are stimulating those pathways and building them up.
The La Rochelles already had been experienced with parenthood by the time their son Levi was born. They saw the differences with him that were obvious from the childhoods of their previous two sons.
He had global delays with his speech, with his gross motor skills, with his fine motor skills. He never crawled. All these little things were questions and didn't make sense. He wasn't following the development like he should have.
The difficult part for us was gaining the diagnosis, I thought, because in our quest to find out what was wrong with him, we had him assessed, and one of the assessments was to answer whether or not he had autism. And after he was fully assessed, they determined that he did not have autism, but he was in the autism spectrum, which really confused me quite a bit. And it took some time to understand what that meant.
I would take him to the playground, say, at the mall, and the rest of the children his age were running around and doing things, and he just sat there. And so I started realizing then that he wasn't advancing, and so that's when I started asking more questions about therapy, and finally started getting some therapy when he was around 2.5 years old.
During this time, Levi would also start to experience serious sensory issues.
We would go someplace and something would be so loud he would cover his little ears. It was painful for him. Or things were very upsetting to him to look at, or they were too bright or too disturbing. So life was very scary for him.
Levi was getting older, and the symptoms of autism were growing more noticeable. Although the La Rochelles had Levi in many different types of therapy, nothing was changing. In fact, their son was regressing very much. Kim had attended Dr. Monier's seminar and felt deep inside that this therapy was the obvious course to take that would gain her son back.
We tried it. And that's when we started seeing progress. Immediately after the first section, I could not believe what I was seeing.
Dr. Monier remembers back to when he first started to treat Levi.
He had issues with the socialization. His mom was telling me that he had no friends at all, and obviously that was a concern to her. He had issues with handwriting. He could not hold a pencil, which is a very common issue. He could not hold a pencil, could not draw, could not write. He was delayed in his reading, in that he's 9 years old, he could not read.
Soon after beginning the hemispheric integration therapy, Levi started to show great improvements in his development.
This was about the best. He couldn't grip the pencil or the crayon, so it was like this. And so, after 2 weeks of hemispheric integration, we got this. And I was so proud. I wanted to frame it right away. And then a week went by, and 3 weeks later, we got this. Now this is General Grievous, if anybody wonders why this guy has 4 arms from Star Wars. But anyway, Then things got really exciting, and at 6 weeks, we got something like this, which I really love. I really, really love. And we kept progressing, and after only 10 weeks, that's the best pirate ship I think I've ever seen.
I can tell you that one of the best were the dinosaur ones. Were these dinosaur ones. Now, this one was one of the best because that's where I started to realize that there was sky there.
Most children with learning difficulties have deficits with critical elements of brain function, such as timing, planning, and sequencing abilities that are essential to academic achievement. With the use of interactive metronome, or IM, a research-based computer protocol, the brain's planning, sequencing, and timing are significantly improved. The IM is a computer-based therapy that provides a systematic way to improve timing, focus, and concentration by stimulating both sides of the brain through the use of a feedback mechanism utilizing a metronome beat. Hemispheric integration therapy seems to be very beneficial in many different ways and offers many differences from other types of therapies to treat autism.
Ours is different in that we are increasing brain capacity. So as your brain starts to work, everything starts to get better. So we've had patients that come in and all of a sudden their tutor is telling them they're doing better and their OT is telling them that they're doing better. So they may start eating better. So again, as that brain, it's a more of a global response as opposed to a specific response. So again, I think that it's non-drug related and it's more of increasing your body's capacity. And that's how it differs from other therapies.
Improved communication between the hemispheres of the brain are achieved by the use of specific stimulations, such as motor, sensory, nutritional, and cognitive modalities that are directed toward the underactivated hemisphere of the brain. This functional neurology approach is to evaluate the receptors and pathways to determine where the areas of dysfunction and miscommunication are occurring.
If you think about somebody working out, if I want to build up my bicep, if I exercise my bicep enough and consistently, my bicep begins to grow. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to diagnose where you have a weakened pathway or a weakened circuit that's not communicating with another part of your brain. We're going to stimulate it, and if we do that frequently and we do that consistently, we will get changes in that pathway, efficient changes, improvement, and then as that pathway improves, you'll get better function and better expression of your humanism.
In the end, this all has to be fused together in order to allow for multimodal processing so that the child can function at a high level. By participating in hemispheric integration, life has changed for the better for these two children. Their parents cannot thank Dr. Monnier enough for the wonderful work and careful time he spends with each patient.
Another big thing that we had to be careful of years ago, the noise sensitivity. If there were super loud noises such as parades or fireworks, we would kind of have to avoid them because it would just be too intense for her and she would get very, very scared with those. Now she's gone to Harlem Globetrotters, loves it, goes to rock concerts, loves it. We went to see Huey Lewis in the News a couple weeks ago. She loved it. She went to an American Idol concert, rocked out. She absolutely loved it. Those are things that she would have wanted to do before, but she wouldn't quite get there because she was too afraid that it would be just too much for her. Now she just gets excited and enjoys it like the other kids do.
Levi was always on the outside looking in. We would be sitting at the family table and of course having the typical family discussions about life, and Levi was sitting there, but he was disconnected. Now he's connected. He started connecting with the conversation, adding to it. He wasn't just looking off. He would actually add to it, look you straight in the eye, which eye contact was not a good thing. Now he's looking straight at you.
Levi had severe sensory issues prior to receiving hemispheric integration therapy. trying to enjoy a relaxing train ride on a family vacation was nearly impossible. But today, those issues are becoming less and less, if not non-existent. Train rides are fun and very enjoyable now for the La Rochelle family, and most importantly, Levi.
I wanted to ask you how you felt on the last train ride we took in California.
Very scared.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Because the train, that's when I had the sensitivity to it, to the
what?
train whistle.
The train whistle?
Yes.
Yeah?
That's when I couldn't hear it. I could not.
You could hear it, but
No, I did not want to.
But you didn't want to. Why?
Because it was too loud for me. But now, it's not at all.
Well, how did it make you feel when it was too loud for you?
Scared.
Yeah.
Terribly scared. Now I don't. Not at all. Nothing.
So how does this feel? This train even, it's got the same kind of sound.
This feels much, much, much better.
Yeah?
I'm not scared anymore.
No?
Nothing.
How does that make you feel not to be scared?
It makes me feel happy and I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah. You know what? I am too.
Yeah.
And I love you.
I love you too.
Yeah.
The Davis' son, Joseph, was 5 months old when his parents had noticed something was different. Months later, while on a family vacation to Mexico, members of the family had informed them that Joseph seemed to show signs of autism.
It even caused me fights with my family because they were telling me, and I didn't want to accept it. So finally we came back and have him diagnosed at 2 years old, and we took him to the neurologist, and that's when they told me.
The Davises were devastated about the diagnosis. Like many other families, they were lost, had no direction, and nowhere to turn.
It was just like if somebody was throwing hot water at me. Not cold water, but hot water. It was just like, wow, what is this?
Joseph was not making eye contact, and he was not talking. He had suffered from language delay, and then, finally, the Davises' doctor gave them the worst news possible.
The neurologist said that there's nothing you can do about it, but just speech therapy. He just said, and I don't know if he's ever going to talk or he could be mentally retarded.
The Davises acted quickly and started with early intervention to help with the recovery of their son that would include occupational and speech therapy. Through the Florida Elks Children Therapy Services, the Davises were introduced to a unique therapy proven to help with autism. Sensory integration therapy involves occupational therapy with a child that is placed in a room specifically designed to stimulate and challenge all of the senses.
If you have a child that has 2 or more issues with one of those senses, like they're tactile defensive, they have balance and coordination problems, they're not talking, they're delayed in speech, which usually means an auditory processing issue. Those are going to cause you to have developmental delays. And then they can lead to behavior problems, attention, focus issues.
Sensory integration therapy is careful not to provide children with more sensory stimulation than they can cope with. Signs of distress will be closely monitored by the occupational therapist. Children with lower sensitivity, hyposensitivity, may be exposed to strong sensations, while children with heightened sensitivity, hypersensitivity, may be exposed to quieter activities. NeuroNet exercises, which fall under sensory integration therapy, are exercises that forces the child to better integrate areas of the brain that are critical for learning.
It works on processing, okay? And it's low-level multitasking, and he's having to use the right side of the body, the left side, right, left, back and forth very quickly. So it forces him to process and make those transmissions. So it forms new neural pathways and gets him really firing very quickly and efficiently.
NeuroNet exercises also help build on the mirror neurons that help imitate emotions. The exercises will enable a child to remember skills that they will use for further learning. NeuroNet requires a child to coordinate balance, movement, listening, speech, and vision simultaneously. The children that are experiencing sensory integration dysfunction or the inability to organize sensory information will have varying degrees of their sense of touch. The therapist will use materials that will prove to be useful. A child with autism often enjoys a sense of firm overall pressure. This can be given by wrapping them in blankets, being squashed by pillows, or given firm hugs. Sound can be focused on by experimenting with talking toys, games on computers, musical instruments, squeaky toys, and all sorts of music. Clapping together, rhymes, repeating phrases, and tongue twisters are useful activities. Joseph has made many great strides in the course of his therapies. His parents strongly feel that life is getting back to normal, and there are a lot less sleepless nights.
I'm getting to know him. I really never saw that regression phase like many parents talk about because he never talked to begin with. So I'm just getting to know him now when he's 6.
I see him, that he's going to be out of the spectrum over time.
The Lorenzes had dreams and hopes of building a wonderful family. Their son Michael was not even 2 years old when he was diagnosed with autism.
But we knew 4 or 5 months prior to that something was wrong. And actually, one of our friends told us that they thought Michael had autism, and we were very angry because that hadn't even occurred to us. And now I look back on that and I think of how brave it was for her to be able to just say it, because without her saying that would have caused us probably to wait some time to do some of the things that we did.
Emotionally, I was confused. I didn't know what it meant. I thought neurological problems, but I also felt like this is something I can fix. I experienced denial. I couldn't believe it was happening to me. I didn't want to accept it. I also felt like after I did grasp it a little bit, I tried really hard for a good 3 years plus to fix it. You get in crisis mode as a mom and you want to fix it.
Michael had reached every childhood milestone and was developing normally.
Michael, as a matter of fact, crawled before his brother. He walked before his brother. He said his few words before him. And there wasn't anything unusual. I didn't see anything different. Nothing stood out as being, there was a problem with him until around 18 months.
At 18 months, Michael had received the flu shot. After receiving the diagnosis, the Lorenzes had tried many different therapies, but it wasn't until they tried hyperbaric oxygen therapy that they started to see the progress in Michael's vocabulary.
I tried a lot of different therapies, and the one I saw most was the hyperbaric, just because he gained some words and vocabulary. He went from a nonverbal child to speaking quite a few hundreds words.
After 22 sessions, his vocabulary started to come out, and then by 3 months he was over 200 words, and now his first word he spelled was aquarium, not cat, not dog, aquarium, and it was his way he spelled out what he wanted. He wanted to go to the aquarium.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is better known for its treatment of scuba divers who suffer from decompression sickness or the bends.
So one of the things that's been shown with hyperbaric oxygen therapy is that many people with autism have decreased blood flow, decreased oxygen to their brain cells. So if we can, and so hyperbaric oxygen therapy has also been shown to open up those blood vessels. So if we're opening up those blood vessels, not only is more oxygen, which is of course such a critical nutrient to the brain, being delivered in a higher amount, but also just if there's more blood flow, then there's more, all the nutrients, all the good stuff is getting more to the brain cells.
Studies have proven that children with autism who have received hyperbaric treatments have had significant improvements in overall functioning, receptive language, social interaction, eye contact, and sensory cognitive awareness compared to children who have received slightly pressurized room air. Michael's treatment under the care of Dr. David Berger continues to show progress and changes in the right direction.
He had a lot of the stimming types of behavior. His social inclinations were certainly impaired. Now that I've been seeing him for, I think it's been 4 years now, and we've really made some tremendous improvements with him. He is now fully speaking. He's able to hold short conversations, speak in full sentences. His social skills, his interactions with not only his brother but his peers are so far superior to where it was when we started. So yes, Michael still has his challenges, and we still have a way to go before we could say he is a recovered child. But his quality of life, his ability to learn, his social interactions, his ability to get his needs known, to be able to share how he feels, to have that type of human interaction that most of us just take for granted, it's there now, and that's something that wasn't there before he started his therapies.
The Chittums also believe in the benefits that are received from hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
We went ahead and did the hyperbaric chamber at Dr. Berger's office for a solid month, and we saw his yeast, and it was reduced by 30%. And he had really bad stomach problems and really bad bowels. And so we saw a huge benefit from that. We took a break, and then we rented it again, and we had it delivered to the house and rented it. We did it again for 2 months that time, and his yeast was cut in half.
The Davises, too, went the same route as the other families, and they also saw the changes in their son's development.
More language, definitely more language, and more eye contact and more attention. He's more aware now of his surroundings, and he would talk to you about, if we are passing by the street, he would say, look at this or look at that, and he would try to describe more things.
Hyperbaric is also used as therapy for the treatment of heavy metal detox, such as mercury. Hyperbaric assists in the metabolism of heavy metal removal. It can help a child counteract the effects of heavy metal poisoning and helps the body deal with toxins even as noxious as cyanide. Hyperbaric is often used in conjunction with chelation and other detox procedures to help the body to deal with the impact commonly seen in the removal of heavy metals, mercury, toxins, and other contaminants. With the success of early intervention and hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the families are now living life filled with hope and enjoying daily life with their children. The Benitos have 2 sons who have both been diagnosed with autism.
When Vincent was diagnosed, I thought Joseph had autism too, and all the doctors told me there was no way, 2 kids in 1 family. It's a very rare disability. At that time, it was 1 in 10,000, and I had waited for Vincent to be diagnosed. I knew at age 1 that Vincent was different, and of course the doctors kept telling me he was going to be fine, and that Einstein didn't talk till he was 5, and they kept putting me off. And finally, I got an appointment for him with a multidisciplinary team, and at the end of a full day evaluation, they turned to me and said, your son has severe autism. And I was like, what?
The Benitos' gut feeling and suspicion about their son Joseph turned out to be true.
So I thought Joseph had it, and I got an appointment with him right away with a developmental pediatrician because I needed to know if Joseph had it as well. And 3 weeks later, took Joseph to a developmental pediatrician. He told me that day that Joseph also had autism.
Having feelings and thoughts racing through their minds, the Benitos felt somewhat relieved with the diagnosis.
Now I knew what was going on because I'd known there was something different. So putting a name on it and then knowing that it was something kind of gave me a relief, and thinking that, okay, now that I know what it is, then I can figure out what to do. I didn't know at that point that when it comes to autism, you don't really know what to do. There is no cookbook. There is no real treatment that says this is going to optimize this person's life and help them be the best they can be. There isn't anything. There's not one thing.
The Benitos were introduced to Positive Behavior Support, or PBS, through CARD at the University of South Florida. Positive Behavior Support is similar to ABA, in which they share the foundation in the science of behavior. PBS is a systematic approach to preventing or reducing challenging behaviors, and eventually to enhancing quality of life for individuals and support providers.
The behaviors you're actually targeting that you are going to try to replace. Okay, a lot of people use the word extinguish, but because we know Joseph, Vincent, anyone through a lot of behaviors are communicating something, you're going to try to replace them with a more functional skill.
So using communication in a more function, coming and getting you and pointing to something that is much more effective than tantruming.
The PBS process includes preventing problem behaviors by assessing and restructuring an individual's environment to try to control and eliminate events that may be triggers for the problem behavior. It also teaches socially acceptable new skills to substitute for the challenging behaviors, which can then accomplish the same function as the problem behavior.
How can we change environments, our interactions, activities, so that children don't have to use problem behavior to get their needs met, so that we can really understand the child better and support the child? There are two words in that whole phrase, positive behavior support, that are really important. One is positive. We only use positive techniques. So we're not punishing children. It's really kind of bizarre even to think that you would punish a child who has a disability, who has challenging behavior, because they have a disability. It's not like they're trying to have challenging behavior, right? So the positive part is really important, and then the support part, because the other issue around children with autism or children with other disabilities is that what they need is support to function in this world. They need us to support them around those things that don't work for them, the way their disability impacts on their understanding of the world or their ability to communicate with others.
PBS will also reinforce socially acceptable alternative behaviors that can be strengthened to complete with the problem behavior, as well as correcting and then reteaching minor problem behaviors immediately whenever they occur. A central concept in PBS is the notion of the function of the behavior. All behavior is seen to be meaningful, purposeful, and functional for the individual, or else he or she would not continue to engage in the behavior. The key in PBS is to determine the function of the problem behavior and then teach socially acceptable skills and behaviors that are just as effective and efficient in accomplishing the function of the problem behavior for the child. As a result, the child will not have to use the problem behavior to obtain, escape, or avoid things, people, activities, or events. Over time, the child will learn new socially acceptable behaviors. As they are learned, the challenging behaviors will become irrelevant, ineffective, and individuals will then be much more likely to be able to achieve a better quality of life.
It's our lifestyle. It's how we live our lives. It's not a therapy that we go to. It's a way of supporting the boys in their daily lives, such as they have a schedule every morning that we just handwrite. Vincent carries his schedule around. Joseph looks at his schedule once and throws it in the trash. He knows what it is. He's done. When there's something new that we need to teach them, we will use photographs or video if it's a whole new skill, and we'll write out the sentences that go with those scenes. So a lot of visual teaching, which in the past we would use these kind of strategies to help prevent a behavior that would be happening because they were trying to communicate something and they were getting frustrated. Now we just know, okay, this is what we have to do to prevent.
The Bonitos also practice community inclusion. That is the practice in which individuals with special needs spend most or all of their time with their peers who do not have a disability.
I found out two very important things. One of the things that is most important to teach a person with autism is imitation, to how to imitate. And that is like, why would I want them to imitate other kids with autism? Already my boys had each other, they're their only siblings. I want them to see kids with typical kid behavior. And so that made sense to me when it came to inclusion. The second thing I learned is if inclusion is done right, and that means not only knowing what kind of support my son needs, but knowing what kind of support the teacher needs. What kind of support do the other students in the class need to understand? What kind of support does the actual school need to understand that they have this child here or this student that they haven't had before with these kind of needs? Or maybe they did, but they didn't understand how to do it. How do you support everyone in the process and then make sure it's going to be set up for success? Because a lot of time when inclusion's done, they only focus on the child with autism and say, okay, what does he need? He needs a one-on-one, he needs this, he needs that, he needs that. And sometimes they support the teacher. But then there's that big missing piece of informing and answering questions of the typical peers, the kids without disabilities, making him a real part of the school community, by matching him up with activities and making sure they receive the support they need as well.
Part of the practice of inclusion is having strong, dedicated friendships, and the Benito boys can surely count on that.
Some people never would even think they'll be at the level that they are now. Like Vincent's graduating high school, Joseph started, but he's doing great, and it's just all good.
Life lessons from this friendship have shown and continue to pay off.
I have less patience with other people. Vincent and Joseph, they taught me to be patient, be understanding, be kind, and I just hope that I can pass that on to someone else.
So reading about inclusion and knowing the outcomes of the quality of life could be best when inclusion is done right. This practice can be implemented in a variety of ways, but the goal is to get the person out in the community and get them involved in different areas so that he or she could benefit from it. The Benitos are very happy with the way their life with Vincent and Joseph is making progress. They are always busy and have activities filled throughout each and every day. The Pegrom's son, Logan, is their only child. He, for the most part, was developing normally. At their church, the Pegroms would gauge Logan by observing other children and by reading child development books.
We thought he was an independent kid, played with himself, had some quirks, but nothing that, that we would say, not knowing that there were flags, but now, knowing what we know, they were classic flags.
He was always right where he was supposed to be with, motor things and walking and other things, and he would always follow like within a month. And so we just stopped consulting that. And then at his 18-month appointment, when we were talking to his pediatrician, he wasn't speaking yet, and she said we should see a speech therapist. And that was when we were like, wow, that's when we really knew something was off.
The very next day, the Pegroms met with a speech therapist. Even though the therapist was not allowed to give a diagnosis, the Pegroms were informed to be prepared.
I walked out of there and I was like, no way, what's she talking about? This isn't true. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And my husband researches everything on the internet, so we pulled up all this information, and I'd have to say within 24 hours it was like, yeah, this is what it's pointing to.
Logan's parents soon got an official diagnosis. Like many other parents out there, they weren't given much direction in what to do in terms of therapy.
You have your therapist, you have your family, but you are walking in the dark and you're hoping that you're doing the right thing and the best thing. And even when you see results or you see something great, in the back of your mind you're always thinking, okay, is there something else I can do? Is this going to work? Is this going to be good for him? So, I mean, it's not like there's a set thing that you can do. It's not like you have a set, like you have it is a disease. It is a disease, but it's not like you can take medication to make it all go away. It's not like there's a set answer for everybody. Everybody has different parts that work for them and parts that don't. So I think that walking in the dark is what it is sometimes, but not all the time.
So we started with Dr. Jones right away, and she was able to get us with Dr. Drash doing verbal behavior analysis.
Another therapy that has worked for the Pegroms has been Relationship Development Intervention, or RDI, a parent-centered program that is intended to help lay missing pathways to the brain. By following the system, parents can expect their children to develop dramatic improvement in meaningful communication, desire, and skills to share their experiences with others, have genuine curiosity and enthusiasm for other people. Children will have the ability to adapt easily and go with the flow. They will also have powerful improvement in perspective taking and theory of mind.
One of the most important things about RDI is that it's important to have internal motivation to engage with people and to engage in dynamic activities, including relationships and also dynamic problem solving. It's the internal motivation that guides us to want to seek out doing things differently rather than doing them the same all the time.
The research behind RDI suggests that children and individuals with autism share 6 core deficits. Those deficits are emotional referencing, social coordination, declarative language, flexible thinking, relational information processing, and foresight and hindsight. Core deficits are addressed by relying upon dynamic intelligence, or the ability to flexibly and creatively respond to novel situations.
Too often children with autism are very static in their thinking, and RDI teaches parents how to develop an RDI lifestyle that incorporates opportunities through what is referred to as guided participation, where the parents essentially teach children how to think dynamically in a very systematic manner.
RDI therapy has been helping the Pegrams live their life with autism. With the help from Dr. Jones, there aren't many times in their lives where they will be walking in the dark.
When you have a program you believe in and you're so busy doing it, it keeps you focused. Being busy is the best thing. Do I think about the future? Not anymore. Can I say my son's going to be typical and functioning in society? I don't know what the future is. I don't think any parent can say that, typical or not, because you don't know what the future lays, but I feel good that what we're doing is at least giving him that direction to have a chance to be whatever.
He went from, at 18 months, he wasn't speaking. He didn't point. He didn't really connect with us. We didn't feel, I couldn't console him. We went from not having a child to having a child.
Specialized diets are another course of action to try that has worked for many families. Parents often try alternative treatments to reducing their child's symptoms of autism. One diet in particular that has grown in popularity has been the gluten-free, casein-free diet. While on this particular diet, many parents have reported improvements in their child's health with the reduction of symptoms of autism. The gluten-free, casein-free diet, also known as the GF-CF diet, eliminates all foods containing gluten and casein. Some parents of children with autism believe their children are allergic or sensitive to the elements found in these foods. To be sure, ask your healthcare provider for an allergy test to receive confirmation of those claims. Even with children who do not have those allergies, many parents still choose this diet. They report back that many of the changes are in speech and behavior. According to the theory of the GF-CF diet, children with autism process peptides and proteins in foods containing gluten and casein differently than other people do. The difference in processing may intensify autistic symptoms. Some beliefs are that the brain treats these proteins like false opiate-type chemicals. The reaction to these chemicals, they say, leads a child to act in a certain way. When someone is on a gluten-free diet, most bread and grain products are eliminated. Therefore, it is highly important that the child or person receives enough fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Supplements are needed to make up for the removal of these nutrients when foods with gluten are removed. Casein is a protein found in dairy products and other foods containing dairy or lactose. If you choose to eliminate casein, please provide other good sources of calcium and vitamin D. Both are necessary for strong bones and teeth. Many restaurants today are now categorized as GF-CF friendly. If concerns arise, please talk to the manager or obtain food ingredient lists before dining. Another specialized diet that is popular among the autism community is the Feingold program or Feingold diet. In the 1960s, a pediatrician by the name of Ben F. Feingold, as well as other colleagues, began treating children for mood disorders. The children started to show dramatic improvements. Their allergy symptoms started to decrease, and the hyperactivity that the child would experience soon diminished. The Feingold program is designed to eliminate artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, aspartame, and artificial preservatives. The artificial coloring in certain foods, such as red fruit punch, green gelatin, or blue oatmeal, is made from petroleum or crude oil, which is also a source for gasoline. When looking on ingredient labels, look for items listed as yellow number 5, red 40, blue number 1, etc. The label may say F, D, and C before the number. That means food, drug, and cosmetics. When you see a number listed as D and C in a product, such as D and C red number 33, it means that this coloring is considered safe for medicine and cosmetics, but not for food. Artificial flavorings are combinations of many chemicals, both natural and synthetic. An artificial flavoring may be composed of hundreds of separate chemicals, and there is no restriction on what a company can use to flavor food. One example of an artificial flavoring is vanillin. Vanillin is an imitation vanilla flavor that is a waste product from paper mills. Some companies built factories next to pulp mills to turn the undesirable byproduct into imitation flavoring. Vanillin is widely used in many cookies, candies, and other foods. BHA, BHT, and TBHQ are the initials of 3 major preservatives found in many foods, especially in the United States. Like the dyes, they are made from petroleum and often are not found in the ingredients. These chemicals may be listed as antioxidants because they prevent the fats in foods from spoiling. MSG, sodium benzoate, nitrates, sulfites, just to name a few, are some other types of undesirable food additives. But most of the additives used in foods have not been found to be as big of a problem as the ones already mentioned. Exposing children to food additives is nothing new. We have been doing it for more than 100 years. Originally, food additives were made from coal tar oil, and children have been eating artificially colored and flavored products for decades. Back then, most children were eating these additives infrequently. They got an occasional lollipop from the bank or barbershop. Cotton candy was found at the circus. Jelly beans were given at Easter, orange cupcakes at Halloween, and candy canes at Christmas. Today, the typical child growing up in the United States is exposed to these powerful chemicals all day, every day. The most important thing to remember is what one treatment or series of treatments that worked for others may not work for your child. For each child, they are different inside, and each child may respond differently to the types of interventions that are offered. Before the 1990s, children with autism were educated in separate special education classrooms. Due to several education mandates, an increasing number of children with autism are now being educated in classrooms with their typically developing peers. However, throughout the United States, there are still specialized learning institutions that help the development of children with autism. In Atlanta, Georgia, Aurora Strategies helps parents achieve rapid success with lasting results by offering the latest technologies in brain-based learning.
Because I've always had an affinity for children on the autism spectrum and their families, it was just a nice combination that we could really make a difference for children these days. And we've got the tools to do it that are available across the country. We just need to use them in their correct way. We call it a therapeutic approach toward academics. So our children are still getting reading, math, language arts, social studies, and science. They're just getting it through a therapeutic approach through these research-based programs, and that's really where all the success comes from.
A nationally recognized premier accelerated learning center, they help match the parents' requirements with leading-edge neuroscience to help achieve maximum effectiveness with measurable results. Like in hemispheric integration therapy, Aurora Strategies achieves this by using the interactive metronome, a based computer protocol.
What it does is through that series of hand clapping or foot tapping activities, that repetition will build, and essentially what it does is it helps rewire the brain to be more organized, to be more functional. We see a lot of children being able to have a quicker processing speed with it. It can also help with attention. Is one of the main things it helps with is attention, focus, some memory. It helps a lot with gross motor, fine motor. As you saw, they were doing the hand clapping, and then one student was doing a cross-body activity where she was clapping with her right hand and tapping with her left foot. And so that requires a lot of gross motor coordination, processing speed, timing, and all those things really lend to helping towards success in the classroom through being able to either sit and listen, or if it's an interactive class, to be able to get up and do what they need to do, to be able to note take. It can also work as far as to improving somebody's handwriting.
Aurora Strategies employs therapists such as speech pathologist and occupational therapist. They also have psychologists, reading specialists, educators, academic coaches, and sports trainers.
The kids really learn here and they really enjoy coming to school. It's different because they each have their own schedule that fits them and goes to their needs. And so they feel they don't have anything that's too difficult for them or too easy. And so it really makes them enjoy it, and they're challenged but not too challenged. They still have success and they're not, failing, where in some other schools they have failed in the past because their schedules aren't tailored to them. So I'd love to see them succeed, and the silly, cute things they do every day is so much fun. I love it.
By combining the wide range of expertise from these professionals, Aurora Strategies makes learning easy and achievable for everyone.
Here at Aurora Strategies, they look at each child and believe that they're going to succeed, and they leave no stone unturned in helping that child to, earn their own potential.
Our children may come in with certain diagnoses, but when they're here, we're expecting great things of them all the time. We're expecting a miracle every day.
Another school specialized for autism is the Victory Center, located in Miami, Florida. Barry and Judy Nelson's son, Jesse, was diagnosed with autism in 1997. They at first created an at-home program, but felt that the real progress needed was to have Jesse in an actual classroom setting.
We went to public schools, we went to private schools, and no one really had what we needed. There was no real program for ABA with a 1-to-1 ratio anywhere. There was no place to provide it, and my husband and I decided to see if we could start it ourselves.
6 months after meeting with friends, the doors had opened to the Victory Center. Consisting of a preschool and a secondary school, the Victory Center provides education and services to individuals and families with autism and similar disorders in a secure and stimulating learning environment that is not otherwise available in Southeast Florida.
The mission of the Victory School is really to help each and every child reach their full potential. We can't say that, we can't limit ourselves by saying our mission is to cure or to help children recover, because some children will not reach a level of recovery that will allow them to be independent. So for those students, the Victory School provides a safe place for them to learn to be as independent as possible. And for the parents of those children, that independence is essential. Maybe they won't go to college, but they'll be able to hold down some kind of work, some kind of job during the day, even if it's community type placement. And that's really the goal, is that each child moves at their own pace towards their own highest level.
I knew in my heart of hearts when I walked into the Victory School that this was the place for Jack. There was so much going on. They had an active board. The parents were involved. The staff was excited about working with the children, and it was one-on-one instruction, which is I knew that's what I needed for him.
The Victory School serves children with autism and similar disorders that receive comprehensive individualized treatment with a 1-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio.
It was 1-to-1 then, and it's a 1-to-1 now. And every time we've grown, we've had as high as 25 kids and 25 teachers, and we've never gotten down lower than 15 or 16 kids. It depends on the need at the time. Kids come and go, and they move at their own pace, but they have great opportunities to be with other kids.
The Victory School also provides intensive therapy based upon the principles of applied behavior analysis. They combine this highly effective intensive training with frequent opportunities for facilitated social interactions within its own classrooms or within the typical preschool on campus. Progress is measured at regular intervals through the collection and interpretation of data. The Victory Secondary School provides educational, social, domestic, community and vocational training programs to individuals with autism and challenging behaviors, grades 6 through 12, as well as individuals up to 22 years of age. The secondary school will also provide intense 1-to-1 and/or 2-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio. The areas of vocational training and life skills will be the central focus for those students who are not able to obtain a high school specialty diploma. They will also focus on following the educational programs that are based upon the Sunshine State Standard in the hopes that they will be able to attend a university. Finding ways to get a child with autism out and enjoy the outdoors can be done by using the Buddy Bike. The Buddy Bike is an inline tandem bicycle that places the stoker in the front seat while the rear rider controls the steering. An alternative tandem bicycle for riders of all abilities, the Buddy Bike's groundbreaking design and safety features provide children with special needs an opportunity for social interaction and physical exercise that would otherwise be unavailable. When it comes to buddies, nothing is better than a non-competitive game of buddy baseball. In Tampa, Florida, there is a recreational league for boys and girls with special needs. Each player is paired with a buddy to assist the players as needed. By joining this sport, friendships are formed and barriers are broken down. Buddy baseball is an opportunity like no other for children with special needs. Players of all types get to experience the thrill of playing, team play, and camaraderie. One of the keys to success and happiness in advancing a child's personal development is through team participation and kinship. The YMCA is another great resource when looking into special programs for your child. Founded on the 3 principles of a healthy spirit, mind, and body, the YMCA and its staff members will organize summer programs that will help continue to build onto your child's development. By offering summer camps, the YMCA provides a meaningful experience for children on the autism spectrum.
That's what I love most about this camp is it's not just keeping them here at the facility and them just staying inside. It's like we like to go out and explore and get them out in the community. I think that is the best thing for these kids with special needs. They need to be able to experience life and experience friendships, and that's the sort of program that we have here at the YMCA.
The summer camp integrates therapeutic interventions into the camp day so that the children can work on language skills, fine and gross motor skills, and their ability to interact effectively with their peers, all while having fun and staying active. By having these types of interventions, it helps ensure that the children continue to make giant strides during the summer and not regress or lose the skills that are already learned. The YMCA will have an adaptive program which will incorporate community-based instruction, or CBI. These are activities so that participants can practice daily living skills such as grocery shopping, money exchange, purchases, ordering at restaurants, and meal routine. These sort of CBIs help children with autism get much-needed practice with independent living skills that will help benefit them late in adulthood. The YMCA promises to the families that every student will have a communication system in place at all times and will respectfully support the children to promote independence. Most individuals with autism will require some degree of support throughout their lives. How much care needed will vary from person to person. It could range from round-the-clock supervision to a monthly case management. For those that had early intervention or not diagnosed far into the spectrum will grow up and choose to possibly attend college or build some sort of career. With the right training and support, persons with autism can and should be employed. Robin Millen, an adult living with autism, is gainfully employed and for the most part, fully independent. She fulfills her day by holding down 2 jobs. She shares her time as a cashier at one of the local grocery stores, a place at which she has been employed for over 15 years. Her other job finds her meeting a lot of special and unique individuals at the local YMCA. Robin, with her mom Anne, enjoys their time together. Anne will join Robin at her therapy sessions with Dr. Lorraine Jones. She sees the progress her daughter has made by using relationship development intervention. Michael Terry is 21 years old and was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. His parents were informed that Michael would never talk and would never be able to function on his own. Michael had to learn to use sign language, but Michael soon learned that autism doesn't have him, that he controls his disability, and it really doesn't bother him.
Working on it. To get the autism and my disability out of here so I don't get that way and get autism and disability the best of me.
After receiving auditory integration training at the age of 4, Michael soon started to talk and hasn't stopped since. Like many other young adults, Michael has dreams and plans for his future.
Number 1 of my dreams is to become a professional race car driver in Formula 1 racing for a sponsor, beverage sponsor I like. And number 2 is like dreaming to become a fighter pilot like in the movie Top Gun with Tom Cruise, flying those fast F-16 fighter jets. And my last ones is like my goal in life is to be a bartender in an establishment that does live music on an event schedule and working in a busy place, being a bartender in a inside a smoke-free casino, in a center bar part at Hard Rock or wherever casino.
Michael works 2 jobs and hardly has time for himself. He has been recently seen on the water learning to wakeboard. Within 1 day of training, he had completely mastered the sport.
First time I didn't do good, but for a while, I did good and I stayed up for a while. Had my knees bent in ship shape and just stretch my knees out a tiny bit, and then I'm getting better.
Michael is like other normal young adults who keep up with world events on the internet. But one other fascination he has is looking at funny videos on YouTube, especially Steve, the lawnmower man.
And he's going down the store to get his wife another beverage, and the cop told him, like, you're not supposed to be riding a lawnmower on the highway. And the cop pulls right up and tells, like, pull it over, Steve, stop the lawnmower. And he lives in a trailer, and he tells the cop, man, she's throwing stuff all over the darn house, kicking stuff around. I'm sick of it. This is my house, my house. I think it's so funny. Don't I, Mom?
Only in the past decade or so have autism researchers and healthcare providers begun to actively address the issue of quality of life for the adolescents and adults with autism. However, with the increasing numbers of individuals with autism that are receiving community-based services in adulthood, organizations like CARD help support that role. CARD is committed to helping individuals become valued and productive citizens. They achieve that goal through utilizing evidence-based practices that are developmentally appropriate for each stage of the lifespan. CARD also offers services to support adults with autism as they encounter possible barriers in their daily lives. Their vision for adults with autism is for them to have the same opportunities in life that are available to all citizens. Those opportunities include helping them become as independent as possible, having a safe place to live, holding a job that suits their capacities and interests, having a social life that includes real friends, making important choices in their life, and being supported to fulfill their potential as contributing members of society. CARD oversees the Learning Academy, a 30-week program designed to provide a structured job readiness program for the ages of 18 to 25. The program provides services, supports, and experiential opportunities that will enable participants to develop and achieve employment goals and enhance independence. Employability skills addressed are self-knowledge, organization, time management, goal setting and attainment, conflict resolution, and success on the job.
The outcomes that we'd like to see for our adults is that employment, really. Many of these folks were sitting home doing nothing for a few years. They graduated from high school. There were no prospects for employment, and for a variety of different reasons. So we wanted to give them some exposure to learning some skills and then practicing them.
Participants will engage in multiple career assessment activities to identify their strengths, skills, talents, and interests and learn how they translate to work. Preparation for job attainment includes interviewing skills, resume development, and finding employment. Real-life experiences and expectations through internship and peer mentoring complement the classwork to provide generalization of skills and support personalized goals. Once you have a routine created, find others in your local area that have been there regarding living their life with a child with autism. Find the parents who are going through the same situations as you. Being able to combine your resources and getting feedback from others will prove beneficial. Joining a support group will raise additional awareness on the increasing numbers of autism. But most importantly, it helps to advocate for children with autism and make you, the parent, aware of updates on the latest research. By reaching out and joining support groups, you will always receive support and friendship from other parents. Support groups were designed to get those answers to the hard questions, as well as to help make informed choices for the child that will eventually help make their life better. Getting out with your child to community gatherings would be another positive option. It would be a sense of relief for them to interact with other children with autism. Again, this would be another chance for you to bond with other parents and to share stories and information. Meet 12-year-old Reno Williams. Reno lives in South Florida, and despite being born legally blind, but now visually impaired, he was also diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Reno became interested in researching autism and Asperger's after realizing that he did some things a little differently than his peers. His mission has been to reverse the painted picture that others see about the ones living their life with a disability.
He took it upon himself to learn about himself, to want to educate others, and just to make them understand what he feels like. It's incredible to me.
For the past 2 years, Reno has been spreading autism awareness through his public speaking in schools and in the community through the use of PowerPoint presentations, brochures, and bookmarks that he has created. He explains how to be a good friend to kids with autism, describing how children with autism may be a little different than some of their typical developing peers, but also showing how they are very much alike. Although Reno has dedicated himself to advocate for persons with disabilities and help spread autism awareness, he also has many other interests. Reno is an avid reader. He loves to play video games, and he is also a loyal fan of WWE wrestling. Another way that Reno educates others is through his book that he authored, Reno's World, Presenting Autism and Related Disabilities to Youth.
I wrote it to reduce the stigma of bullying and of people who have autism and Asperger's in schools and stuff, because they get bullied a lot, but if I educate them, they won't get bullied that much.
Reno's future goals include starting a nonprofit organization, offering a reading club involving children with and without disabilities, implementing programs such as youth groups and support groups for children who have autism and their families. Reno's ultimate goal is to offer monetary grants to help families in crisis. Children with autism are unique and not different, but they view the world in a different light from us all, and if we can just be privileged to be a small part of that, then we too are blessed. In the end, it just comes down to having enough love, care, and lots of patience for a child with autism. Maybe viewing their autism as an ability rather than a disability would be something to consider. As parents of children with special needs, you are the most attentive parents around, and that's a very positive thing. You will go above and beyond what other parents would do. You are your own child's hope. So, regardless of which intervention you choose to take, look past any limitations that autism may offer and try to see the gifts that are there, right in front of you.
The path to hope starts today.
It was a mid-December evening in a room of heavy breathing when I looked into my little baby's eyes. Like the ships that sail the ocean, he had captured my emotions, wrapped them up just like a gift at Christmas time. I thank the Lord above that he was mine. I prayed to God that everything was fine. And after months we saw him changing. Nathaniel's speech was rearranging, so we took him back to see what they could find. And after ironing out the creases, they came up with missing pieces, and they told us that autism's on the rise. I looked into my little baby's eyes. Promised him to find the reasons why. Now I lay him down to sleep. I pray the Lord my son could speak and make him strong where he is weak. This I ask of you. Just like him, there's many more that need our help to win this war. And who knows what might lay in store to help them make it through. doctor says there's so much more to do. Put the pieces back together, but it's up to me and you. So now we lay them down to sleep. We pray the Lord they all could speak and make them strong where they are weak. This we ask of you, 'cause now we know there's so many more that need our help to win this war. And who knows what might lay in store to help you make it through. Yes, who knows what might lay in store. Missing piece is me and you.